This week's message from the angels opens the door to woo woo just a little bit more. Just when I thought we had gone all the way in, the angels find a way to push us a little bit deeper into accepting what it seems to be impossible. So, this week's message from the angels is all about the expanding our idea of not only humanity's history, but the history of Earth. So, welcome back to my channel, you guys. I am so glad you're here to share this one with me. and welcome to those of you who are new to my channel. My name is Ann Tucker. I'm a trance channel. I channel from the angelic realm. And I do that by going into a deep meditative state or trance. And from there, I raise my awareness up as high as I can go. And then I stretch a little. I connect, and then messages, information, and healing come through, and I share it here with you guys on YouTube. So, and this week's message is it brings in a whole new conversation, and this is like another one of those like e-ticket rides from Disneyland, where it's like if you are new to exploring spirit, this may push you out of your comfort zone. And this, I got to tell you, this is a whole area that I have not really explored. So this is the first time the angels have talked about this stuff, this idea of, and they have given us a message about off-planet beings, about ETs. And that's awesome. And I'm excited about that. But this is a whole different thing about a new concept of what the history of Earth is, what the history of humanity is. And there have been lots of people that make their whole point of their work that they're doing on Earth right now is about this topic. And they have been out there doing this work, talking about alternate visions of human history and talking about Atlantis and talking about Telos and talking about all these things. But this is the first time the angels have talked about it. This is the first time I've heard about it from them. And their perspective, I think, is an incredibly valuable one. And how they see it and how they tell us what we need to be thinking about as these interesting opportunities that are going to be coming up here. So anyways, I think you guys are going to love the message. I'm really excited to share it with you. So other huge news that happened is, yes, it is. Oh, I dropped my notebook. It's here. The book is here. This is my new book, you guys. And I know so many of you guys have already been posting pictures of you guys with your book. So thank you so much. I'm super excited to share this with you guys. So for those of you who don't know about the book, what this is, I keep jiggling it so you can't see it. It is called What's Coming Next, a channel guide to navigating the greatest shift of our time. And it's on Amazon. And so what the book is a compilation of all of the most critical messages about the shift in consciousness. And they're all organized. So if you look in the table of contents, they're all organized based on topic area. So we have, so for example, we go through the first section is how we will change. It starts out to say where we are headed. So it talks like all the messages about our future, which is one of my favorite sections because it's all the really uplifting stuff about how beautiful. Of course, you want to start there, how beautiful it's going to be. And then, and amazing stuff the angels have told us about what we have in store for us once we move through the shift. And then who is coming along. This kind of addresses that like do I get to come? What about my family? What about my kids? All that kind of stuff. Then it goes into we've already begun, which is talking about the process that we've been through up until this point, because we're in the middle of it. It all started really in 2020 and probably even before, but like seriously, like gears engaged in 2020. That's when I started getting all these messages. Then how we will change. So, and this is going through the sections about from karma, we're moving from karma to dharma, from separation to oneness, from telephoning to telepathic, from the head to the heart, from time-bound to timeless presence. Then it goes into the necessary unwinding. So this is sort of the difficult things that are on the horizon that we have to move through. Number one being the geopolitical changes and economic changes, as well as the earth rift. And so what happens in each of these sections, and I could go on, but I take all of the messages that were about this, and now you can read like about the earth rift, all the messages are in one place. And then what's cool is, so there's a summary at the beginning of each section as well at the beginning of every chapter. But so, for example, here there would be, this is the title of the message, we are one organism, and then this is the summary right here of that message, and then this is the QR code that if you use this QR code, it takes you right to the YouTube video where there's the analysis of the message. So you can read along with it, you can read the message for yourself and get your own meaning, which I always super encourage to have your own, because you guys each have your own connection to the angels, and use your own discernment to see how it lands for you, because you may get different things out of it than I got. And then you can even add, either they're meant personally for you or add them to the conversation. The other thing I did is pulled out quotes in each section that I thought, like, what if you just, like, because this is a big book. It's like 300 and some pages, you guys. And I thought, what if you just, if it felt a lot to dive in, what if you just wanted to kind of pass through it and see what jumped out at you? So, for example, you might find right here would be a quote that you could just land on this. And it says, you have inferred that the trigger for most would be this earth disruption. However, that will occur in the midst of this unfolding, not at the beginning. So things that I thought were like, okay, here's something you don't want to miss, I pulled out and put in larger print like that. So you could just kind of flip through it, or you know, however you guys like to, you know, some of us are like, we prefer to kind of browse, and other people want to read and really get into the depth of it. So that's the book, and it's really meant to be something that can help you guys through the process of this shift in consciousness. So there's one section in here that I would really want as many people to see as possible, which is the section on what do we do when the shift comes, when the flash of light comes. There's some incredibly important information. It's this section right here, the flash of light. And the first section is the solar event that will raise our frequency. And then the next section is our extraordinary transformation and the 3 days of darkness. So that section has all the messages about this is what it's going to feel like in your body. This is how the angels are going to be supporting you. This is what you should do. This is how it's going to feel. Like all those kinds of things that it will be so helpful to help us navigate this process without fear. So yeah, so it's all in there. And so the thing I would ask is, if you have bought the book, if you would be willing, and I know it's a little extra work, so I would really appreciate it if you would be willing to go into Amazon, if you have read it, and leave a 5-star review. It would mean an enormous amount to me, because I heard this, and thank you, Jean, for telling me, who is one of our community members, that if we get 100 reviews, then it becomes one of the recommended books. When people go to buy a book, if they buy something similar, it will show up as, hey, consider this book too. So if you have bought the book and you're willing to go into Amazon and leave a 5-star review, if you have any words to say, or if you're just want to do the click of the stars, that's okay too. But if you have something to say, that would be just to help other people who are considering it. I would be enormously grateful. So if you could consider doing that, thank you very much. And I would, as a thank you for those of you who are willing to do that, I would love to host an online gathering where we go through any questions you guys have about the book. So we'll pick a time and a date, and I'll let you guys know. I'm getting ready to go on a trip. I'm going on a little vacation to Japan. I have never really been there. I only flown through it back in my 20s. So I'm super excited to go back and to actually see the country. But when I get back, we'll do a live call and just talk about, if you guys have any questions about any sections, then we can dive into it. It'll be super fun. So that will be my thank you gift to you for your review. So thank you guys. I really appreciate it. So, all right, you guys, sending you lots of blessings and love for your weekend, and I hope you enjoy the message. Blessings. We bring to you now new thoughts of surrender. From where you are now, the point, this moment, is an instigation in time within which you are falling forward into the next now, and the opening has been made, and you are created again. This time of surrender is for your own soul to recognize what is within, to surrender what was, to open the self to what is coming. The self and the soul is of one mind, of one continuity, one time frame that has always been within the consciousness that you are. There has been an unfolding that you have encountered time and again within the construct of reality, which is formed within this experience that you are having now. There's always the self, as you have been in many different situations, but always as you are, always as this world has been. You have been instrumentally altered within each context you have lived in. You have been monumentally transforming within each space you have occupied, but always within a context of the earth as it has been. In the time that you are approaching, the time of now, you must surrender all that was, all that is, all that has been in the mindscape, in your understanding, and prepare yourself for what will evolve through you. The next new coming time frame will have in its context and new beginnings aspects of soul you have not yet known, parts of yourself that are yet to be uncovered. There are new reaches that will be sustainable, that you will sustainably be having. And within these contexts, your appetite for love grows. Your contextual knowledge of each other expands. Your interest and thoughts regarding Earth herself becomes much more evocative of her experience. You become connected to her as if by love within herself, as if you are made from within her. There are in your own understanding places, segments of knowledge which pertain to how you were and what things will be. There are appetites for change and for something different. But you must pass through the challenges of this next morn, of what shall be difficult. And as you do, we ask of you to hold within that context the enshroudment of light that you carry, to be always within your own conformity to what is your central column of light, to the understanding of your soul as primary always, as your light can be your guardianship, your light can be your instrumentation. It can be what guides you through into a new reality forming from within you. There will be, in these new moments that are arriving, an understanding of your soul as someone who has never been alone. The context of earth grows broadly. Your understanding of your soul as in accompaniment and in dialogue with many types of beings, not just humans. There are many sorts, many types who live here. There are many placements of peoples and different reaches of understanding that have always occupied this same space, but have been as yet out of reach. And as you are acclimating to your new existence, your mindscape shall open, and what shall appear before you shall be many apparitions which may become solid should you simply allow them to be. The habits of perception are strong, and the desire to be in the state of knowledge, in the state of knowing, in the state of expectation, which is comforting, can limit the perception of what is beyond understanding. Thus, we say to the self to be aware in your dialogue with nature and all that is as you move into a frequency much higher, that there are opportunities to guide you toward the greater recognition of what Earth is and has always been. It is a haven for many types of beings, and you are but one of them. And within this context, your reference point, your sense of self as having been made for Earth by Earth, this does not change, for you are of her. But there are, in addition to this, the many who shall also entertain themselves as primary occupants and inhabitants of this great field of perception. And should you gather yourself together into consciousness within the space of their apparition, you shall become as one within the context of conversation, and great understanding shall arrive, a great comprehension which has long been lost to yourselves. There is within the turning tides of this next time frame a great recovery of yourselves, great knowledge which has been lost, which comes again, the great flight and fright of humanity, which has been shut off from itself with a great juxtaposition to truth, which has been an endowment you have carried within texts and written histories. These placements, like guardians, have blanketed the truth and kept it secret. And we say your histories are much longer than you know, that you have been here for many more years than you have previously allowed. And within these contexts, your understandings from before are shattered. There shall be a great rising of opportunity, a great rising of experiencing that is coming to you, a great unveiling of what was previously hidden. Your own histories come into the surrender of your expectations. They become unlimited. And your soul seeks the spark of recognition, for within these contexts, your own concept of what your potential is becomes unbound, and you stretch and reach for further aspects of who you can become. Thus, all is done within the context of your own growth and receptivity. There are other beings who live within and on the earth, and they have for you a, a great capacity to love. They have within their own hearts the willingness to live with one another, and you shall come to terms with this and invite yourselves into compatibility, but not until the flash of light arrives, for there shall be no opportunity for this great unearthing of all who do reside until you have reached such a height of expression as can come to terms with their own. There will be a great rising of earth. An expression of who you were comes again to the surface, and you shall find within this an expectation you have been having for who are we and why were we gathered here, and how come we to this great continental expression of cultures. And there are mysteries that are solvable with the information that shall be revealed. We say and speak to this as you are moving toward these unearthings, to open you and your perceptions, to put you on guard against your own immovability. This sensation of humanity is that you cannot perceive that which does not meet your expectations. Thus, we wish to inform you of what can be, what ought to, what will be perceptible to you. These opportunities are not far, they are near, and they shall be shocking, and they shall be efforted in dialogue for comprehension. There shall be much discussion, much revelation, and there shall be good doers who have long been in congruence with these truths, who finally lay to rest the great battle for their own justification of ideas. We say and speak to this, that truths can be layered, There can be many meanings. So give not to the self only one interpretation. Be open, be wide, be in congruence with learning. Allow the self to perceive what is. See with your own eyes. Accept not what is offered to you as something of inhibition. Rely upon the surfacing of what shows itself to you and see what lies within. There are no troubles to seek here. There are no forms of worry. There is only the aspects of humanity which can be unveiled, which will be of service to you. Blessings. So yeah. Right? Like it's yet another great leap into the great abyss of woo-woo. Like, okay. Every moment, like I think I've stretched my own capacity to believe and my own capacity to allow. They are like, great, okay, let's just push you a little. How about all this other stuff? These other beings living around us and with us, and like I know, and Atlanteans and all the other stuff, right? And it's what they're saying. Like I said, it's been talked about forever, but now here, this is the first time I have heard it from the angels, and their perspective is beautiful because what they add to this conversation is the awareness of how we will feel and how we will be as these ideas and as these experiences come into our field of awareness. And what they're saying to us is like we have been living one idea of Earth for a really long time. That's kind of the whole first section of this is they're saying you guys have been yourself in this process, like you keep having new experiences, but always within this one context, right? Where Earth is Earth and humans are humans. And for a long time we thought we were the center of the universe, but we gradually expand our understanding. And think about how broadly the conversation is already beginning to shift. So there's I think people are feeling these possibilities come to us. But they're saying for the longest time, like all of our history, all of our like academia accepts one truth, right? That this is the way things have unfolded. And this is supported not only by academia, but all of our religious texts, right? They say this is what it's been. Like there's this one history. And that may be different in some religious texts. They may be, and I'm not a religious scholar. I don't have a lot of information there, but I can say to some that I'm familiar with that their idea of what history is lines up pretty good with what the scientists say history is, in terms of like when it started or how it started, not how it started, but when it started. That basically humans have been like us the whole time, and Earth has been like Earth the whole time, and it's been just us. Like that's been the story. And what the angels are saying here is that there's going to be, as we rise into this great shift in frequency, that all of a sudden we are going to come into alignment with other beings who we will now begin to be at a high enough vibration that we will be able to share space with one another. So that's new. That is new. And what they're saying is that, and same thing they also saying, so that's the one thing they're saying there's other beings that we're going to be able to encounter and see. And I will tell you guys, like, I would be more suspicious of this. Like I would be, and what they say, I believe. Like I don't suspect them at all, but I would have a harder time accepting it. But I had an experience, a firsthand experience. When I went to Mount Shasta, I was there like maybe a year or two ago, probably 2 years ago. And I was with a friend of mine who had been a bunch of times, and she knew about this beautiful place called the Peace Meditation Gardens. And we went there, and it was the first time I meditated while we were at Shasta, in a beautiful space, beautiful garden. And so I sat by myself, closed my eyes, tuned in, and the first thing that happened is this beautiful woman appears to me, and she's ethereal. Of course, it's sort of a white vision of this woman, and she kind of is just floating there, and she kind of does this gesture with her hands, which is like welcome. Does this beautiful welcome gesture. And then my meditation goes on from there. And I was like, well, that's really cool. Like, what was that? Who was that? Didn't recognize her. And after the meditation, I go and I talk to my friend who's very, like, she's read all the books on Shasta. She, like, knows all the stories and all the legends. And I tell her, and she knows immediately. She's like, that was the woman of the mountain. And apparently there's this whole story about this woman of the mountain. And the fact that I saw it first and then heard this story, and this is all connected to the stories about their people, like other beings living, in that area that are not humans. Like, okay, all right, maybe, like maybe I had an experience and I saw what other people had seen, and it's connected to these stories. So that was probably the first little thing that they planted for me to have this experience, so that now I would be more receptive to these messages. Yeah, kind of a mind blower. So, okay, so first they talk about that. They say we're going to go through this shift in consciousness, and when we do, our frequency will be high enough. And the angels have said that there are angels who are incarnated here on earth that we cannot see. Not all angels are incarnated. Most are not. Very few are incarnated. But there are angels who have a kind of physical form, which is basically just a light body, that are here on the earth to help us as we go through this process. And when we go through the shift in consciousness, many of us will be able to see them, which is what they have said, which is like super exciting, right? Super, super exciting. But in addition to angels, I think there are other beings as well. So, okay, so there's that. First big piece of like, okay, this is a big bite to swallow. And then they say, and there's a rising. There's going to be, through the process, probably through the earth shifting. They've talked about the earth rift, probably through that process. There will be probably things that rise and fall, land masses rising and falling, or maybe it's just through the process of land shifting that things get unearthed. And these things that get unearthed point to us being on the planet way longer than we've ever been. And so that's the second thing they talk about in this message, that there's this great unearthing. And we'll go through it paragraph by paragraph so you can see how I'm understanding that from what they say. But yeah, so and when they talk about that, what they say is that the biggest challenge we're going to have is that we are conditioned to see things as they've always been. And they caution us against accepting if I get the feeling from what they say that there's going to be a huge effort for us to process what comes up within the context of everything we've understood before, right? Within the understanding things the way they've always been. There'll be a tendency to dismiss things and to describe them as the way that fit in with our current history, with our current understanding of what things are. And what the angels are saying is be open, like be willing to see what actually is there, to see it with your own eyes, to be discerning and to not accept one truth, to be open to looking at multiple different perspectives of what's there and deciding for yourself. And they say that once we allow it, that's when we will see it. So it's literally like, and they say that humans have the tendency to see what we expect to see, to read onto things. And this is how we create, right? We create through our perceptions, through our filters. So if we come into it with this really locked in, like it's got to be what I expect, it can't be that, then we will read onto it our own truths. And they're saying be open, because apparently within this, there is some amazing magic for us. They say that through the process of expanding ourselves to see these things, we expand our belief in what's possible for us. It's almost like we see that we've had certain abilities in the past, and we start to say, wow, if humans, just like me, were able to do that before, that means I could do that now, right? So that's the kind of expanding of limiting beliefs that I think through this process that will just fall away. So wow, right? Absolutely wow. And you're saying perhaps the people from Telos, like that, I mean, that's what I thought of, right? That kind of stuff. So I know it sounds amazing, crazy, but it also sounds awesome. So I'm just allowing it to be crazy and just focusing on the awesome. That's how I'm taking this message. I'm focusing on the awesome. I'm like, yeah, if you want to show me beings from other places that are here that are like, I'm like, bring it on. Yeah, for sure. Because they said it's all in love. Like all of it is in love. That we will come into frequency with that love, and then we will be able to. So I say, if this challenges you, I say just sit with it. Take what resonates and leave behind what doesn't. And then if these things come forward, then you can reflect back on this message and then see how you feel and see how it fits for you and with the reality you want to experience. Personally, I say I choose yes. I'm like, yeah, if this is true, I want to experience that. If that's at all possible, I am down with that, right? I think that sounds incredible. So, okay, so let's break it down, you guys. And you're going to say, yes, bring it on. I'm ready. I know, me too, right? Yeah. And Shady said, what up the fair? She says, I would love to see fairies and whatever else has been told as fictional. I think it's all in there. I really do. And yeah, hard to accept with the rational mind. especially because like our world does not accept these beliefs, right? Doesn't accept these things as true. And so there's that sense of being being crazy, right? Or being gullible or whatever it is. But yeah, so let's break it down and see what they say. All right, here's what they say. They say, blessings, we bring to you now new thoughts of surrender. From where you are now, the point, this moment, is an instigation in time within which you are falling forward into the next now. I love that idea of falling forward, falling. So it's almost as if gravity is pulling us into the new experience. So there's almost like some pivot point where we have gone past the possibility that all these good things weren't going to happen for us. And now we are leaning forward, falling forward like humanity. And they've told us, like basically they know we're going to get there. So we are falling forward into these new experiences that are on the docket. These are on the agenda. And they say, and the opening has been made and you are created again. So awesome. And this time of surrender is for your own soul to recognize what is within, to surrender what was, to open the self to what is coming. So the time we are in right now, this is the process of us opening to this new experience. And that whole process of opening is being willing to expand our concept of reality, to move beyond what has been before. And so it is really hard for us to see things that we don't expect to see. We can literally look right past them. So that is part of the work that we're trying to do right now, is to open our minds, to set aside, and there's enormous comfort in having things be the same and be what we expect. So that's part of the reason they're trying to introduce these ideas to us. They go on in the next paragraph. They say, the self and the soul is of one mind, of one continuity, one time frame that has always been. So think of that one time frame. Think of that as like an era. Like we have been in the era of 3D consciousness, right? Where we've been living in a karmic construct where our reality is projected from inside of us, and we move through that reality in order to encounter ourselves and learn about what's inside of us by running into frustrations and oppositions and struggle, and which is really reflecting the struggles that we feel, the parts of ourself that we reject. So, and karma not meaning anything that was judged against us. It's where we judge ourselves, where we reject experiences we've had, that we wish we didn't have, where we reject parts of ourselves that we wish weren't true, things we may have done or said or felt that we wish we didn't do or say or feel. So that is the world we've been in. That is the era of self-discovery, right? And so now they're saying we're moving beyond that era. And this, they've been telling us this in a million different ways, that we're moving into a dharmic experience, where it's no longer a karmic experience. So one time frame that has always been. Within the consciousness that you are, there has been an unfolding that you have encountered time and again within the construct of reality which is formed. So in other words, we are born into this, in this time frame, when all these lives we've been living within this era, which is what we believe is always how it's always been, right? This is sort of where we believe history starts and says this is life, this is what it is to be human. Within that context, we have been reborn and reborn and reborn, and we get to open, unfold, encounter ourselves again and again. Right? Within this experience that you are having now, so we're saying it's happening now in this life as well. We're currently in this. We have not yet left the karmic construct. And then they say, there's always the self as you have been in many different situations, but always as you are, always as this world has been. So in other words, we keep putting ourselves into different, one time you're a farmer, one time you're a banker, one time you're, whatever. Like we get to live these different experiences, but always your soul, always your essence, right? And always in the world of this particular era of the karmic construct. And then they say you have been instrumentally altered within each context you have lived in. So instrumentally here, it's like you've been crucially, right? That it has been a means or a tool to change you. So what I also like here is that you have been instrumentally altered. They always have little references to music. If you've noticed that and I am not musical, but they always drop little musical mentions, which I think is just part of being an angel. They're very musical beings, and they refer to us, how we are as a soul, as a song, that our soul is, we have a soul song, and that is how we project the fullness of who we are into our reality. Our song contains all these different notes of everything we believe and everything we've experienced and everything of who we are, and it becomes a song. So they have all these different, and so here today we have been instrumentally altered. Our song changes, right? So there are instruments in our song. We maybe bring in a piccolo, or we bring in, who knows, some, I'm like all about the tambourines or whatever, we get to bring in some new tunes, new notes, new parts, new instruments into our song. So our song alters, right? Within each context you have lived. So in other words, we are constantly evolving, and our soul song is evolving in every time we are alive. Each context, each experience we have within this era of existence. And they say you have been monumentally transforming within each space you occupied, but always within a context of the earth as it has been. So in other words, we've been doing this all within the context of the karmic reality, which is the history that we've had. So then they go on, next paragraph, they say, in the time that you are approaching, the time of now, you must surrender all that was, all that is, all that has been in the mindscape, in your understanding, and prepare yourself for what will evolve through you. So this is where we say we have a very strongly built sense of expectation of reality, and we need to be in a space where we can allow that to be challenged, where we are open to seeing with our eyes, not with our expectations. And this is huge, you guys. And the way I can explain this is how many of you have been, whether it be with a family member who comes home who just got a haircut and you don't even notice it. And they're right in front. It could be a drastic one. They could cut 4 inches off their hair, right? And you don't even see it. Like, not even until they finally pointed out, hey, like, haircut, And we all do that. And that's because we're not seeing them with our eyes. We're seeing them with our expectation of who they are. We're just seeing this is the person occupying this space in my reality, and we relate to them according to our expectations of who they are. And only when they call our attention to it do we notice, oh, something about them physically has changed a lot. And then we see it. And so this is how we respond to our whole reality, is that we always see our reality because it saves brain space. We don't, if we are constantly seeing everything with fresh eyes, it takes a lot more presence. And when we move through the shift of light, we will get that presence. The angels have said they will help us. They will magnify our consciousness in the present moment and allow us to perceive much more of what is. But right now, it takes a lot of brain time. It saves a lot of energy to just be able to go through the motions, largely through habit, and live life and just see things that are surprising, right? Things that jump out at us, and we save our calories, our brain calories for that. And we try to navigate as much as we can through habit. But we need to be in a space as we move into this to be prepared to surrender, to be prepared to see things that we have never seen before. And to be just open. And even if it challenges us, to just see it. They're not saying to believe what they say. They're saying to experience for yourself and to see what you see and to let your truth come from within. So then they go on to say, the next new coming time frame will have, in its context and new beginnings, aspects of soul you have not yet known, parts of yourself that are yet to be uncovered. There are new reaches that will be sustainable, that you will sustainably be having. So these are your vibration will shift. And because of that, what we can see and what we can experience will shift. So, and then that is going to bring out new parts of ourselves. It's going to bring heightened states of consciousness, which give us access, they've said, to telepathy, to a deep sense of empathy where we can feel each other's feelings. So there's all kinds of things that will change within us. And some of that might even feel a little scary, like what's happening to me? If we don't expect it and it just all of a sudden you're feeling what it is to be someone else, that could probably be a little confusing. And so that's part of it, is where they're trying to tell us now to say, be open and be ready to see the world very differently. They go on to say, and within this context, your appetite for love grows. Your contextual knowledge of each other expands. Your interest and thoughts regarding Earth herself becomes much more evocative of her experience. So I love this because this is describing that deep sense of empathy that I was mentioning, that we're going to have this sixth sense that we tap into that allows us to feel each other's feelings. And they say this is why our capacity, our appetite for love grows. Because when you can feel what it is to be another, you can't help but love them because you feel them as if it's you. And so they say your contextual knowledge of each other expands. So we feel, and they use the word context a bunch in this message. So the context are the circumstances that form the setting for an event or an idea, and it helps to define its meaning, define it and its meaning, right? So they use this. So in other words, we understand that soul in the context that it's living in. So the context is what helps to define how that soul is in this lifetime and in this world, and what it means, what's meaningful to it. So we can feel that presence. But the other thing I love about the word context is it comes from a Latin root, which is to weave or join together. And so this is, think about what that means, that in the context that that soul is living, it is weaving and joining together. So that is not only weaving and joining together all aspects of itself into the present moment, but then it is weaving and joining together with you. And we are becoming one. So beautiful choice, as always, by the angels, beautiful choice of words, that they use the word context throughout this thing. So here they're saying, and within this, your context, within this context, your appetite for love grows. So as we weave and join together, we develop love for one another. The contextual knowledge of each other expands. So your interest and thoughts regarding Earth herself become more evocative. So in other words, we have the connection we have to one another, we have to the Earth herself. And we begin to feel what she feels, which is going to be a mind blower, a game changer, you guys, a game changer. They say you become connected to her as if by love within herself, as if you are made from within her. So this is what they were saying in one of our most recent messages, that in this new reality that we're going to be in, and I cannot wait. Like I cannot, the more they tell us about this, I don't want to say I cannot wait because I'm creating with my words. So I want to say I am in deep excitement and anticipation of what is coming. And I will wait, because waiting is where we are right now. But I am super excited, you guys, because what we're saying is that in the new reality, we are no longer living in karma. Our goal of life changes. The goal is no longer to read the book of ourselves and to discover ourselves through this experience of bumping into ourselves through suffering, really. In the new reality, we set that down. We take what we've learned. We take as much as we've been able to read so far, which is why they're saying read as much as you can. In other words, heal as much as you can. Healing is the process of encountering the parts of ourself that we've repressed or denied, integrating those parts into ourself. That's what healing is. And everybody needs to do healing. Everyone. There's not a soul on earth who does not need to heal, because there's all of us that have pieces of ourselves that we've repressed, or that we don't want to experience. So we move from that context into the new reality, which is where we're creating from a dharmic perspective, which means we are riding a wave of reality, living consciously in the now in a much more powerful way, where life rises up to meet us and we accomplished everything in the now moment. We no longer take things away with us and ponder and think about them and wish we said that, and boy, I could have done it differently. All that's gone. We are in the moment and we're feeling it deeply and feeling the other person's feelings deeply, and we're able to change and respond and do things differently because we have all the information right there in the present, access to all knowledge and to each other in the moment. And so from this process, what becomes our journey is a journey of creation. And we are trying in the new reality, we are trying to tune into what is desired by everyone, or what would be of service to many, as well as what would be of service to the earth, and how we could fulfill that desire. What is it in us that is unique, that is creative, a creative force that we contain that is unique to us, that we could bring alive, that would fulfill the desires of many people, including the earth? That is going to be our chore. And then our growth will come from the challenge of trying to do it, right? Of how do we do that? How do we bring that part of ourself into reality? And what are the experiences of that? But it won't be through suffering. It'll be through learning, that maybe we try it once. It's like trying to throw a clay pot, and you do it a few times and it keeps falling and it keeps falling, and then finally you get it right. And maybe you learn through that process. And that's just an example, but I think you knew what I mean. Yeah. So, all right. So we have this deep connection, which is hugely growing for us. They go on in the next paragraph. They say, there are, in your own understanding, places, segments of knowledge which pertain to how you were and what things will be. There are appetites for change and for something different. So in other words, we have this schedule of thought, I guess I will call it. It's like a way of thinking about ourselves and our life that are pretty much patterned. They're like laid down tracks that we ride on, like railroad tracks that we ride on all the time, right? And places, segments of knowledge which pertain to how we were and things that will be. So things that we expect. And then they say there are, within this framework, appetites for change and for something different. So it's not like we're so stuck in what is that we don't daydream about, I wish things were better. We have that. And then they say, but you must pass through the challenges of this next morn. So we are here wishing for something different, but before we can get to something different, there are some major challenges that we have to go through, which are the earth rift, the economic troubles, which are, I think, close. And the shifting, the falling apart of the US, which I think is very close. And those of you who are not familiar with those, I have a book about it. And this is what it looks like. This book tells you all about it. And it has chapters on these things that you can read, which are really, really easy way to learn all about it. So, so anyways, we have to move through these experiences. And they say, but you must pass through the challenges of this next morn, of what shall be difficult. And as you do, we ask of you to hold within that context the enshroudment of light that you carry, to be always within your own conformity to what is your central column of light, to the understanding of your soul as primary always. So here is what they're saying. This is how we are meant to navigate the challenges on the horizon, is to try to, and they said this in a bunch of different ways, but one of the big ones they say is when you are going through challenges, to tune out what is happening outside. When even if you're in a place, they said that not everything happens everywhere, that there are many things that are going to happen, but some of them where you live may end up being very similar to what it is today, other than some of these major structural changes. But in terms of the buildings around you, the people around you, and some of you, that may not be the case. Some of you may be in a place where things have been drastically altered, like the people, in Asheville and the American South, or the people in southern Spain. And boy, did the angels just tell us torrents and torrents of mud. Did they just say that? And then I literally was looking at a headline about Spain and it said torrents of mud. I thought, wow, 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 wow. And yeah. And so within that, regardless of where you are, they say, pull down the shades, close the doors. If there is fear, shut it out of your experience. Come back to your four walls and remember that you are safe where you are. You are alive. You are in a space where you are listening to this message, which means you are in a place where you're safe. And so they say, feel that and allow that to be, and tune into your own alignment with source, with your own alignment to your connection, and use that feeling of I'm safe, I'm loved, I'm protected. Navigate from there. Do not navigate from fear. Do your best to shut the fear out. Come back to this realization that you're all right, that if you've always been taken care of up until now, which in one way or another, you are still alive, which means you are always taken care of. Even if you've been through some stuff, you are always taken care of because you are here. And what that means is that you will always be taken care of, that your angels have your back and they will guide you through this process. So tune into the love in the center. And that is what we're meant to navigate from. And it is super important, you guys. This super, super important to do that. And we will be helped because the energies already, we're being infused with all these beautiful energies coming that are hitting the planet, that are raising our vibration. And so it won't be as hard as it's been to be in that vibration. They say, tune into your soul as primary always. So don't listen to the fear, listen to your soul, listen to your own discernment, your connection. As your light can be your guardianship. Your light can be your instrumentation. It can be what guides you through into a new reality forming from within you. So this is why it's so important, right? They go on to say, there will be in these new moments that are arriving an understanding of your soul as someone who has never been alone. So here's where they start talking about other beings. And they say the context of earth grows broadly. And so that's angels who are earth angels who've been incarnated angels, which there are many, but way more not incarnated angels, as well as other types of beings. And they say your understanding of your soul as in accompaniment and in dialogue with many types of beings, not just humans. There are many sorts, many types who live here. There are many placements of peoples and different reaches of understanding, in other words, different levels of consciousness, right, that have always occupied this same space, but have been as yet out of reach. They go on to say, and as you are, and by out of reach, we mean consciously, that we have been at too low of a vibration to see or experience them generally. And as you are acclimating to your new existence, your mindscape shall open, and what shall appear before you shall be many apparitions, which may become solid should you simply allow them to be. And I highlighted this paragraph because it goes to say how much we still control our reality, the degree to which we are able to deny the existence of things. And because we deny them, we don't see them. And so technically they don't exist because we push them out of our reality. And so in this this, I think I looked up apparitions, and it's something remarkable or unexpected, which I love because I think of apparition as like a ghost or something. I think that's what, but no, the actual definition is something remarkable or unexpected. And so that is it. Many apparitions, many things that are remarkable or unexpected. And so this goes back to that whole idea about expectations, which was what this whole message is about, is we have to open our expectations in order to be able to allow these things to come into our reality. And so they may come in first as something unexpected or remarkable. And they say when they do, don't explain it away. Don't just be like, oh, my mind's playing tricks on me, or maybe that was just a new military craft, whatever we want to say, that we explained it was a mirage, whatever. They say no, allow it to be possible. Allow it, like that basically they say that it will become solid should you simply allow them to be. Should you simply allow it to be possible for these things to exist, then we may see them. Like incredible, right? Absolutely incredible. They go on, the habits of perception are strong. And the desire to be in the state of knowledge, in the state of knowing, in the state of expectation, which is comforting, can limit the perception of what is beyond understanding. In other words, we tend to revert back to things that we know because it makes us feel comfortable. And things that are remarkable and unexpected are scary to us, right? Even people who are like, yeah, I want to meet ETs. If that ET showed up, that person would probably freak out. Because it's like, we don't know what to expect. And this is totally outside of our experience. And so I'm sure it will be a little bit frightening. And so that desire for comfort would immediately probably lead us to explain it away as something we already know. And they say, yeah, that will limit our perception of what is beyond understanding. And they say, thus, we say to the self to be aware of your dialogue with nature and all that is as you move into a frequency much higher. That there are opportunities to guide you toward the greater recognition of what Earth is and has always been. So this is the opportunity available to us, which is incredible, right? Incredible. So they go on to say, it is, what the Earth is a haven for many types of beings, and you are but one of them. That by itself is going to rattle some feathers. You know what I mean? Because we tend to think that and like think about so many religions that say like we are, and I do think like we are special. I know we are, that we contain the spark of the divine, and that makes us unique, very unique. But the idea that the earth wasn't made just for us, that challenges a lot of religious thought, that this planet could have other beings that are as evolved, if not more evolved than we are. Would definitely, like the idea that we used to think we were the center of the whole universe, and we had to let that go and be like, oh, I guess our planet is just one of many that rotate around the sun, and now, but oh no, the earth is ours. The earth was made for us. What if it wasn't? What if we are one of many beings on this earth? That's yet another opening, another entrance into unity as opposed to separation, right? And it's funny, like how it mirrors what it is to be an infant, in infancy, where I'm sure as we are within the mother's womb, we think that we are the mother, that the mother is us. And the universe, just like that, would be mirroring the idea that the universe is, that we are the center of the universe. And then when we're birthed and we have to leave the mother and we realize, oh my gosh, I'm not that I am just earth orbiting the sun, and the sun is mom, and dad. And so that's the first step. And now we're going through the next state, which is where, even as an infant, a toddler believes that everybody around them is part of itself still. They still think that everybody that is around them kind of exists, and they have to go through this process of understanding that other people have feelings that they don't have, that they have a different experience, that it's not a unified experience. In other words, if they are feeling a feeling, that doesn't mean that the other person is also feeling it. And that is something that a toddler has a moment of recognition, of awareness. And I think that is the stage that we are going through. Not that we're toddlers, but maybe in a state of awareness, right? In the terms of our beginnings of separation and moving from separation to unity. So this is the stage we are at, where we were believing that the earth was all about us. And now we're moving into the state that, maybe the earth is about more than just us, that maybe there are other beings here too. Yeah, super interesting, isn't it? And it's always true. What's true in the small is true. It's like the Russian dolls, right? What's true in our individual bodies is true for the world, is true for the universe. Yeah. So, okay, it is a haven for many types of being, and you are but one of them. And within this context, your reference point, your sense of self as having been made for earth by earth, this does not change, for you are of her. Right? They're saying you don't become less special. You are just as special. We are just as special. We still are like the neurons of the earth. But there are, in addition to this, the many who shall also entertain themselves as primary occupants and inhabitants of this great field of perception. So there may be other beings, and those beings may have a different relationship to Earth. So let's talk about, just because we're already this far into the woo, and it's like, why not? Let's talk about fairies, because why not? And so like the whole thing of fairies is, I think, like, I've heard stories about how fairies are meant to like protect nature. You know, how there might be a fairy protecting a tree or protecting a particular flower or something like that. Like or a living creature, an animal, there would be a fairy connected to an animal. So maybe their relationship to Earth is like that. It's where it's not the same as us, where we are like the neurons, we're her thoughts, is my understanding of our relationship to Earth, what we think she experiences. So I think that will probably stay us, is my guess, and that there will be other beings who have a different connection or relationship to her. Yeah. Maybe like we are her different organs. How about that? Like we are the thought, like maybe we're like the brain. Maybe, I don't know. That's just a theory. But maybe in the same way that we have different organs within us, that each organ is important, but each organ does a slightly different job. So that's an idea. That could be. So yeah, Jane says, so much of this makes me smile. I'm so glad I'm with my peeps. It is good to share this information with you guys. It really is. So, all right. So then they go on to say, where is it? And should you gather yourself together into consciousness within the space of their apparition, you shall become as one within the context of conversation, and great understanding shall arrive, a great comprehension which has long been lost to yourselves. So in other words, so here's what we have to gain. If we are willing to be open to this idea, and if we come together with them consciously within consciousness, within the space of their, so they say we see an apparition, it shocks us, but we just take a breath and just allow this to be possible. And we come into relationship with them in that context. We have whether it's a telepathic conversation or whatever it is, they say great understanding shall arise. So they have enormous amounts to, and maybe it's just through the expansion of what's possible. Maybe it's through what they have to tell us about ourselves. Who knows? But they say a great comprehension which has long been lost to yourselves. We get this back, which is amazing. So they go on to say, there is within the turning of tides of this next time frame a great recovery of yourselves, great knowledge which has been lost, which comes again, the great flight and fright of humanity, which has been shut off from itself with a great juxtaposition to truth, which has been an endowment you have carried within text and written history. So what this is saying is the great flight and fright of humanity. So this I see is like there have been periods of mass trauma on Earth, you know, like great floods and things like that have happened that scientists can point to and say, you know, comets. There was like some sort of a giant asteroid or something that hit the planet. And we know like about this with the dinosaurs and different things, different time periods where there were huge things that happened that created like beginnings and endings, right, on Earth. And then where people had to kind of reinvent themselves going forward. And so they say the great flight and fright of humanity, shut off from ourselves, right? And with a great, shut us off from their past with a great juxtaposition to the truth. So it kind of closed the door on things we used to know. And a new history was started from that point. And maybe that was oral history. And then they say these ideas that history started then became our written histories and text. And they say this was a great juxtaposition to the truth. So a juxtaposition is a contrasting idea of our history, right? And so in other words, it's a rejection of the old truths of that we had been here from before that. And so we carry this idea of that history started then. That is what we have in our text and written histories. And they say these placements, like guardians, the texts and written histories, like guardians, have blanketed the truth and kept it secret. So these are what have formed our teachings, our learnings, are what is accepted in our cultures, right? And kept what anything that did not align with that was then not accepted, and was by nature the fact that we exclude the things that we don't accept, that we don't want to see, that made those things secret to us, that we couldn't see them. And we say your histories are much longer than you know, that you have been here for many more years than you have previously allowed. And within these contexts, your understandings from before are shattered. And that's a big word, shattered, right? So it's not a small divergence from what we used to think. It's like, okay, now we have to rewrite all the books. That's the feeling. Got to rewrite everything. Wow. There shall be a great rising of opportunity, a great rising of experience that is coming to you, a great unveiling of what was previously hidden. Your own histories come into the surrender of your expectations. So this is the big word, surrendering our expectations. They become unlimited. Your expectations do become unlimited. And your soul seeks the spark of recognition, for within these contexts, your own concept of what your potential is becomes unbound, and you stretch and reach for further aspects of who you can become. And so here I think it's important they say it is our soul that is stretching. So this is why they're saying, come back to our center, come back to our soul, to our alignment. Our soul will guide us towards these expanding moments, these expanding experiences. And we'll be able to stretch for further aspects of who we can become in this new state of consciousness. Thus, all is done within the context of your own growth and receptivity. So, of course, everything is perfect, right? And then they say, there are other beings who live within and on the earth, and they have for you a great capacity to love. Like, super important, they tell us this, that this is peaceful, that these are experiences, the beings that we may be able to see are beings that are in the frequency of love, that they won't harm us. They have within their own hearts the willingness to live with one another, and you shall come to terms with this and invite yourselves into compatibility. So in other words, once we're in a space where we can live harmoniously with them, then that means like we have to have world peace. So that's when, and that's the flash of light. Flash of light brings world peace, and that then opens us as humans to be able to have these experiences. But not, and then they say, not until the flash of light arrives, for there shall be no opportunity for this great unearthing of all who do reside until you have reached such a height of expression as can come to terms with their own, which are to be living in harmony. All right, so then the next, and now they shift and they talk about this rising of, or like a exposing of historical stuff that will shatter our perceptions of when history started. And here they say there will be a great rising of earth. So this is like lifting of earth. So maybe things that were previously buried come up to the surface. An expression of who you were comes again to the surface. So previous inhabitations of humans, right, on earth that we don't know anything about, or that we don't accept. How about that? That we don't accept. And you shall find within this an expectation you have been having for who are we, and why were we gathered here, and how come we to this great continental expression of cultures. So in other words, we have been asking these questions all along about who are we, where do we come from, how did we develop the cultures that we have in the different parts of the world. And they say, and there are mysteries that are solvable within the information that shall be revealed. So in other words, there's many parts of the history as we know it so far that we've explained to ourselves, but they're not. But it's not proven. That there's doubt. That there are theories about how things evolved. And with the stuff that's revealed, these mysteries will be solved, and we will have a much deeper understanding of ourselves and how we evolved as humans. And then they say. We say and speak to this as you are moving toward these unearthings, to open you and your perceptions, to put you on guard against your own immovability. The sensation of humanity is that you cannot perceive that which does not meet your expectations. So I think it's, even if a thing is, if we are literally physically confronted with tangible proof of things that are out of our scheduled expectations, we will deny them in one way or another. We will explain them away, right? We'll say that they are, who knows how we will do it, but that's how humans are. right? If it doesn't fit in our box and it challenges us and it scares us and it challenges all known convention, our first response will be to try to explain it from the context of what we already know. And they're saying that they say, thus, we wish to inform you of what can be, what ought to, and what will be perceptible to you. They're trying to open our minds to say, when this stuff comes, when stuff rises to the surface and we can see it, be open to interpreting it outside of what has conventionally been known. And then they say, these opportunities are not far, they are near, and they shall be shocking. And they shall be efforted in dialogue for comprehension. So yeah, lots of conversation about this. There shall be much discussion, much revelation, and there shall be good doers who have long been in congruence with these truths, who finally lay to rest the great battle for their own justification of ideas. So in other words, they're saying there are people who have come, good doers. I interpret that as volunteers who came to earth, who have been, and I know that there are these people out there. I know about that there are people who've been saying, like, talking about these things, talking about, like we talk about Atlantis and Lemurians and all these things as possibilities, and giants and all kinds of stuff. There's people who've been talking about this stuff, who've been writing books about it, and there's conventions that just talk about this stuff. So these are the people who've been trying to bring these things into our understanding. And they say they finally lay to rest the great battle for their own justification of ideas. So they can finally say, look what I've been telling you. It's right here. They get proven right, I think is what they're trying to tell us. Yeah. So they can finally relax, which is like, yay for them. Yay for them. And then they say, we say and speak to this, that truths can be layered. So here is the moment of caution. They say, even to those truths, even to the people who may have been speaking about this stuff all along, they say, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Don't immediately accept what is given to us. They say truths can be layered. There can be many meanings. So give not to the self only one interpretation. Even if it's the one that just, you're like, oh my gosh, this is it. They say, don't lock it down too quickly. Be open, be wide, be in congruence with learning. So come into this with the understanding that nobody has all the answers, not even the people who maybe have been experts at this kind of stuff so far. Be in the idea that we are all novices. We are just beginning to learn. And they say, allow the self, you, to perceive what is. So see with your own eyes. Accept not what is offered to you as something of inhibition, because they're saying what can become the accepted dialogue about these things is a dialogue that will inhibit more learning, that humanity has a tendency to try to lock things down as quickly as possible, that we have a tendency to try to explain things as fast as we can. And when we do that, we close down new perceptions and new potentials that and we have a hard time seeing them. So they're saying here, try to not close down as quickly as society will want us to. Instead, try to leave it open to try to see things for really outside the box and just let it evolve and be with the idea that nobody knows, right? That there are layers to this. And even if there's a part of it that really resonates, you're like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense to me, accept that as one layer of the sandwich and recognize that there may be more there for you. They say, rely upon the surfacing of what shows itself to you and what lies within. Very interesting. And then here they clarify at the end. They say very clearly, there are no troubles to seek here. There are no forms of worry. In other words, this can't harm us. There's no danger to it. It is purely about expanding our understanding of who we are and what our potential is, expanding our concept of our potential so that we can expand as a soul, so that we are willing to grow. That's why this is being revealed now, right? So that we have a greater understanding of human potential, so that we allow that potential to exist. So no troubles here, no forms of worry. There are only the aspects of humanity which can be unveiled, which will be of service to you. Blessings. So thank you so much for joining me for this one. I know it was a doozy. At least it was a doozy for me. So for some of you, you're like, this is, yeah, you knew this all along. You've always known it, but amazing to hear it from the angel's perspective. And to hear it, to me, it feels close. It feels like we're going to be experiencing this stuff soon, soon, as they say, as the angels soon, who have no time. But But within years, I think within years, we could be having some of these incredible experiences. So, all right, you guys have an amazing weekend and sending you tons of blessing. And I will be really looking forward to being with you again next Friday. Bye. See you then.